Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Hiring Our Heroes virtual career community webinar, Transferring Your Skills into a Career in the Solar Industry. My name is Marianne Davitt. I am a career connector and special programs manager for Hiring Our Heroes. Hiring Our Heroes is a program of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce Foundation with a mission to connect transitioning service members, veterans, military spouses, and caregivers with meaningful career opportunities. I'm so pleased to be here today to kick off this session that will help you learn about careers in the growing solar energy industry, how you can use the skills you have, what training is available, and more. If you have a question at any time during the session, please don't use the chat. Please write your answer or the question in the Q&A feature below, and we'll tee that up for our team later in the hour. Now I would like to hand it over to Becky Long, Senior Program Manager for the Solar Energy Industries Association, to start us off and introduce us to the solar industry employers joining us today.
Thank you, Marianne. As Marianne mentioned, I'm Becky Long with SEIA, the Solar Energy Industries Association. We are the trade association representing the national solar industry, and we are happy to be here today and happy to be talking with all of you. In my work at SEIA, I work on workforce development broadly, but I do focus most of my time on the Solar Ready Vets Network, which I will describe in a minute here. Next slide, please. So I am joined today by 4 of my industry colleagues. We have Mike Forehand. He's the Manager of Talent Acquisition for Military Programs at Sunrun. We have Astrid Blanco. She's the Talent Acquisition Manager at Revision Energy. We have Caitlin Zamorowitz. She's a recruiter of the Solar Division at Wanzek. And Will Carlton, General Manager of Distributed Generation and Community Solar at Clearway Energy Group. So thank you all for joining us today. We'll kick off today with a brief presentation about career opportunities in the solar industry overall, and then that'll take about 15 minutes or so, and then we'll have in-depth discussions with each of these 4 employers about the roles that they're hiring for, about what a day in the life of those roles look like, and about what are the kinds of qualifications you need to get your foot in the door in that kind of a role. And at the end, then, for about the last 20 minutes or so, that's when we would anticipate really getting into answering those Q&A. Great, next slide, please. So just a disclaimer here, an acknowledgement that the U.S. Department of Energy is the funder of the Solar Ready Vets Network. Next slide, please. The Solar Ready Vets Network provides direct impact and capacity building opportunities to strengthen solar career pathways for the military community and really provide solar employers with a pipeline of military talent. And we do our work through 4 organizational partners. So the lead organization is the Solar Foundation. We also have my organization, the SEIA, or the Solar Energy Industries Association. We have Hiring Our Heroes, who's hosting this session today, and the career fair coming up on Thursday for us, and NABCEP, which is the Solar Credentialing Board. So next slide, please. Just very briefly to touch on the types of activities that the Solar Ready Vets Network takes on. We have things such as our virtual solar career fair happening on April 8th. So in just 2 days, hopefully all of you are signed up, resumes uploaded, and are going to be participating in that event. We look forward to seeing you there. We're planning another similar event towards the end of September. So if you are interested in that or know others who are, definitely stay in touch with us. We also offer a Solar Ready Vets Fellowship Program. This is also in partner with Hiring Our Heroes. It's with their corporate fellowship program. So this is targeted more at mid to senior level service members who are getting ready to transition out of service, and it allows them to work with a solar employer for 3 months before they actually exit the service. And then we've got additional programs, so stay tuned. We encourage all of you to go to solarreadyveterans.org. We'll post it in the chat here in a minute, and join our Solar Ready Vets network so you can stay up to date on the latest news, events, things that are happening in the Solar Ready Vets network. Next slide, please. We also have another number of capacity building initiatives. So this is new. We've got GI Bill eligibility for solar training and credentials, as well as a couple of other programs, which I won't really touch on today. Again, go ahead and join our Solar Ready Vets network. I'll type it in as soon as I'm done talking here. I'll type in a link to that website. Next slide, please. Great. So for our career fair on Thursday, I just heard my colleagues at Hiring a Hero say that we now have 150 job seekers registered, which is wonderful because that is what we were hoping to hit. So we, again, just really look forward to seeing all of you there. We do have 27 employers on board, and I had a list of about 7 or 8 others who wanted to join, but we didn't want to have so many employers that we wouldn't have enough time in 2 hours. And so we did cap it off. So, there's just plenty of employers who are interested in the talent that you all have to offer. And just a quick note to mention that this career fair for the solar industry is specifically targeted on roles in the trades. So that's mostly solar installers, solar electricians, O&M or operations and maintenance technicians, and other trades and skilled trades types roles, as well as sales roles. So the reason we're focusing on these roles is, one, we do think the skill set of those coming out of the military or with military experience definitely are relevant here. However, these are the roles that employers let us know that they are most urgently hiring for. And so we think there's really a great fit there. Next slide, please. So that you all know, the solar industry is really starting to recognize the value that military talent offers. So not only your incredible soft skills from your leadership and organizational and teamwork skills, but also your technical skills, whether that's you've got some sort of an electrical background, or you've done some work in construction, or you've focused on safety in your time in the military. But one of the things that also makes solar a really great fit for the military community is that many solar companies and the industry overall really tends to be very mission driven. And that can really resonate with members of the military community. I'll also say that diversity, equity, inclusion is a growing area of interest and concern for the solar industry, and the industry is making strides in that area, which also really aligns with those coming out of the military today. Really, you all do tend to be a very diverse group. So glad to have you here. Next slide, please. Just some examples of the types of positions companies are hiring for this career fair on Thursday. So as I mentioned, solar installer, which I'll go into a little bit about what that is later on in this presentation, but I will just briefly mention now that we have different types of companies. So some solar companies will do residential type solar. So that's, installing solar panels on homes, on their roofs, right? But they'll also do the larger scale. There are companies doing the larger scale solar projects, which are those large solar farms that you see really in places across the country. And those don't require, roof work. Those can be ground mount systems. And so if you are interested in heights or not interested in, going up on a roof, there can be really opportunities in solar installation for you. And we will have those types of companies represented at the career fair. Same with electricians, really opportunities across the board on the residential to the large scale solar side. Operations maintenance technician, this is another growing role as there's more and more solar plants across the country. There's more and more need to have technicians who can skillfully operate and maintain those. All right, can you hear me now? My sound just dropped from my phone, so now I'm talking on my computer. All right, can you all hear me? Can you just, maybe one of the speakers can let me know if you can hear me?
I can hear you now.
Okay, sorry about that, my phone dropped. So there are a number of other positions that companies are hiring her that are listed here. Some of these are more supervisory. We find that some of our job seekers are interested in those supervisory or more management type positions if they've had significant construction experience in the construction management experience in the military, or perhaps project management. Another interesting area is warehouse coordination and management. And of course, we also have sales, some of which are more inside sales and might be able to be located remotely, and some of what are more in-person direct sales. Next slide, please. Okay, so I'll go over some careers in solar and career pathways. So next slide, please. So I'll just real briefly about the solar job market. So there are 250,000 workers in the solar industry across the country. So we are really a sizable industry, and we are growing really quickly. So we grew as an industry at a rate of 43% in 2020. That's during the pandemic. I don't have to, I know, remind you all of that. But we had some slowdowns at the beginning of the pandemic, but then as the solar industry was clearly recognized as an essential industry, we did make sure that there were safety procedures in place across the industry, and we were able to continue operating really across the industry, more or less. And again, very strong growth in 2020, expecting more strong growth in 2021 and beyond. And just as well, the Biden administration is prioritizing clean energy and infrastructure and workforce development, and there are all opportunities there related to solar. So the future for solar is really bright. Next slide. This map is just to show that there are solar jobs across the country. This is a couple years outdated, but just to let you know about some kind of hotspots. California is a very established solar market. There are almost always jobs opportunities available in California. We're seeing growing opportunities available, really a lot of opportunities in places like Texas. Florida is a growing market across the Southeast, not just North Carolina. We're seeing Georgia, some South Carolina growth there. Massachusetts has been a strong market, New York as well. We're seeing more growth up in Maine, across New England, also seeing growth in the Midwest, a fair amount in Illinois, but also other places. So, and the Southwest, of course, can't forget as well. So we really are in most regions across the country. There are solar opportunities. Of course, there are some hot spots, and you can actually, we'll send these slides out so you can actually even have a look at these types of tools after the event. Next slide, please. Just a quick note that there has been diversity studies done as part of our partner organization's Solar Job Census, and veterans do make up about 7.5% of the solar industry, which is more than the US workforce overall, but we do believe that we can do a lot better. And we also, as I mentioned earlier, are as an industry launching concerted efforts to increase representation among people of color and elevate women in the industry as well. Next slide, please. Great, so I'm going to go over just a little bit of information on some positions, and especially focusing on those that are relevant for the career fair on Thursday, that again is focused really on roles in the skilled trades, craft type roles, as well as sales roles. And so there's just very high demand for solar installers in many places around the country. Again, whether it's on the roof or these are large scale ground mount systems. If you've got experience with working with hand tools, if you have some basic construction experience or basic electrical work, solar companies would probably be pretty interested in talking with you. If you're able to just learn quickly and you don't mind working outdoors, in fact, you enjoy working outdoors, this can be, a great fit. We do find that some folks from the military will have that OSHA 10, but, even if you don't, that's not a barrier. But it is a plus if you have something like that. If you If you do also have something called a NABCEP PV associate entry, that can be helpful at an entry-level role, but it's really not required from almost all employers that I've spoken with. That can be a nice to have, but not required. It can be something that can really help you advance your career though. And you can use your GI Bill benefits for that, which I won't go into today. Just to note that it's not always well known, but there are pretty interesting career pathways for solar installers. So you could become a crew chief, where you lead an installation team or other type of supervisor. Those who want to go more of the technical electrical route, you could work towards becoming a licensed electrician. If you've got really strong organizational management skills, you could work towards becoming a project manager or a construction manager. And if you're really great at designing systems, that might be something that you look towards. And, a lot of those various pathways would require some additional training and certainly some job experience that you could get as an installer. So next slide, please. Another high demand area in our industry is for electricians. And again, this is at both the residential as well as the medium and kind of large scale solar level. So, ground mount and rooftops. So, solar companies are always looking for journey level licensed electricians. And of course, the requirements do vary by state to state. But again, that really is the golden ticket. However, if you have some electrical experience, you could get started in some states and with some companies start as a solar electrical helper, get that electrical experience and work towards becoming a licensed electrician. Some solar companies will have opportunities to become an apprentice electrician with those companies as you're installing solar and gaining that electrical experience. Next slide, please. And so these are just some advancement opportunities for those who maybe start as an installer or an electrician. There are various supervisory opportunities or management opportunities in construction. I won't go through these here. We will be sending these slides out to you. Next slide, please. And as I mentioned earlier, project management can be a route. I know that some of our employers today are even looking at, safety management or safety specialist type roles. Of course, if you have an engineering background, that's also, very much needed in the industry. Next slide, please. Another area that's growing in the industry is asset management. So, once we have these solar plants or solar assets in place, how are they maintained? How are they operating, and how are we getting the most financial benefit out of these systems? And so, a really key role there is solar operations and maintenance technicians, folks who, again, have some sort of ideally some sort of a solar or it could be just some electrical knowledge or mechanical experience for these entry-level type roles. If you don't have that, we'd still encourage you to consider these opportunities. If you are good with, if you can learn really quickly on these types of issues, for these types of roles, if you've got some hand tool experience or, some general construction, even that would be applicable here. So definitely look into those types of roles. And then, one kind of a role for advancement or for those who are maybe mid-level already and are transitioning into the solar industry, solar asset management can be a field to look into. Next slide, please. Great. So there are a number of opportunities also on the sales or business development side. And so, solar sales roles really can run from entry level all the way up to, experienced management level. And so, what we find is that for entry level positions, employers are really open to working with those who have a really strong customer orientation and those who are willing to, work hard and learn quickly and, really have that self-motivation and drive to sell. and you know, ideally that passion really for you know, selling a product that really helps in so many ways. You know, so I'll let our representatives who are hiring for these types of roles talk about those types of opportunities. And then, you know, for you can advance, as I mentioned, you can kind of advance up from whether it's a more inside sales focused role or a kind of direct outside sales role. There are definitely opportunities to advance beyond the entry level roles. Next slide, please. So I'm not going to go into these next slides too much in detail. I will just say that there are other types of opportunities available, a lot of other opportunities available in the solar industry. So you can read these kind of at your leisure, maybe when we send these slides out to you, if these kinds of roles are of interest, but they're not really too much what the employers for this career fair are hiring for. So there are opportunities in system design. Next slide. There are opportunities in research and manufacturing of panels themselves or storage. Next slide, please. Policy specialists, of course. Next slide. Also the business and kind of just operational side of the business. There are lots of different opportunities, you know, if you're an expert accountant or, you know, IT support person or things like that. Next slide, please. And then there's a number of resources that I just wanted to share on these slides. Again, I'm not going to go into these, but these are things that you might want to look into as you're thinking about, you know, advancing your career in the solar industry. Next slide, please. We listed some job boards for you to check out. Next slide. And then this IREC Solar Career Map and ANR Solar Career Map, I encourage you to have a look at that if you're interested in finding out what role might be a good fit for you in the solar industry. They kind of lead you through some flow charts or charts about different roles and the types of responsibilities of those roles and career growth opportunities for those roles. Next slide. Great. And so with that, I would like to bring back our solar industry employers. Again, we've got Mike Forehand with Sunrun. We've got Astrid Blanco with Revision Energy. We've got Caitlin Zamorowitz with Wanzek. And we've got Will Carlton with Clearway Energy Group. So if I could ask each of you to please introduce yourself briefly, your role at your organization itself, and just the titles only of the roles that you're hiring for at the career fair. And we'll kick it off with Mike Forehand, please.
Hi, I'm Mike Forehand. I'm the military programs manager at Sunrun. We are the biggest national provider of residential solar and batteries. So we're looking to hire everything from entry-level sales to solar installers, site survey technicians, field service technicians, pretty broad range of roles at the career fair tomorrow. I look forward to seeing you all there.
Thanks, Mike. If we can move on to Astrid, please.
Hola, my name is Astrid. I work in the Human Resources Department at Revision Energy. So we are an employee-owned B Corp with locations in Maine, New Hampshire, and Massachusetts. I've got close to 40 open positions across all 3 states, from solar installer, electrical apprentice, solar foundations installer. So if someone doesn't feel comfortable working on a roof or working at heights, inside sales, safety manager, a little bit of IT and administrative assistance. But I'm also looking forward to kind of telling you a little bit more later on.
Thanks, Astrid. Caitlin?
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Caitlin Zamorowitz, and I'm a recruiter in our solar division here at Wanzek. And right now we have opportunities between our solar installers, solar electricians, and also equipment operators ranging from light, medium to heavy equipment. And look forward to talking with everybody here on Thursday.
Thank you. Great. Will?
Yeah, hi everyone. So like many on the phone, career as in the Navy as a nuclear electrician. So excited to be able to be talk with you all and help you on this next path and transition into the solar world. So Clearway, we're one of the largest owner operators of community and industrial scale solar and then utility scale solar and wind in the country with about 5 gigawatts of operating assets and then about 10 gigawatts in the pipeline over the next 5 years. So we're really looking at all positions, but in my group, and we have the highest need, like Becky was saying, with O&M technicians to man all of those operating portfolio and new projects coming online. So look forward to talking with you all. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Will. Great. I'm going to start the opposite direction. So I'm going to start with you again, Will. And I'm going to ask you to answer a few questions kind of all together here. Take your time here. But what skill sets are most important for the O&M technician roles that you mentioned? What are the skill sets that are must have, or what are the credentials that you absolutely need, or maybe you don't necessarily need, but they're on the job description? How can you help people navigate that? And so that's one thing. And then after that, if you could talk about kind of what a day in the life of that role would be.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And so for everybody curious, we have 4 different levels at Clearway. We have the solar groundsman, Tech 1 through Tech 3, Tech 3 being the highest, solar groundsman being the entry level in the O&M technician space. And what we kind of look for is generally as you get farther up the chain in that Tech 3, more electrical, mechanical aptitude, maybe some previous experience or things. We do have people from the military with nuclear experience or some Army rates and some Air Force rates with a lot of strong electrical that come in as kind of a junior Tech 2. But military people in general, even if you don't have electrical or mechanical direct experience in your rating, we do look for just the good attitude, ability to learn, that work ethic, all the things that we know as a veteran you have inherently, but we like to see that shine through in the interview process. And then a day in the life, to answer that second question, it varies a lot. It's one of the things I love about operations and maintenance. It can change from day in and day out. As you go up the chain, you kind of go up into the Tech 3 higher level. You're focused more on corrective maintenance. Things break, you fix, you go troubleshoot it, figure it out, order parts. Really diving into that electrical skill, all the way down into you're doing preventative maintenance and then ancillary maintenance, vegetation management. Just general small repairs around the site for the more entry level positions, but and kind of everything in between. So. We're keeping those assets healthy and operating and making our company money every day. So.
Great. Thanks very much, Will. Let's actually, Will, why don't we I'll ask you one more question before I turn it over to another employer. I'll ask you, what are the potential career paths for individuals? Let's say they start as a Tech 1 in the more entry level role. What are their career paths? And then let's say they start at a Tech 3. What are potential career paths there? Yeah,
so we offer, for the entry level role, somebody that comes in as a Tech 1, at Clearway we offer a training program that's, I built the training personally, so it's loosely based off of your similar stuff that you see in the military with on-the-job training and tech qualification cards that my managers or your manager at the time of thing will work you through on the training, give you checkouts, teach you, and usually that experience lasts about 1.5 years. It can be quicker, it can be longer, depending upon if you're a hot runner or you kind of take your time a little bit more through it. And so we'll work you through that into the Tech 1, Tech 2, Tech 3 with promotions and raises along the way. And then, we have, you go into either a supervisor or manager role of that region, of that specific utility scale plant. You can also transition into maybe an engineering role or a planner scheduler role or something like that if you're not into being a supervisor, but maybe want to get out of the field. And then from there, it's kind of, it's your own destiny. So you can move into more senior level managers, regional managers, general manager like myself. and then up from there. So usually that's a traditional path for a field level person, but certainly we value in the office the field experience and what you bring in other roles too. So there's a lot of different paths that you can bring if you're willing to move and willing to do stuff with the company and learn.
Thanks, Will. Appreciate that.
Sure.
Great. I'll move to Caitlin. I'm going to ask you the same series of questions. I will go ahead and repeat those since those were a lot of questions. So if you can start by letting us know what skill sets are the most important for the roles you're hiring for. I know you're hiring for multiple roles. And then, what kind of, is there a certification or education that you absolutely need to demonstrate that you have in order to get those roles, or is there some flexibility there? Let's start with that.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. So to kind of start with our solar installer position, really responsibilities overall, kind of assembling, installing, and maintaining those solar PV systems. So a lot of kind of the day-to-day duties, so to say, would, include measuring, cutting, assembling, and really bolting in those structural frames in the solar modules. As far as the requirements for that position, it's really a lot of physical. So I would say, someone that's physically fit that can walk upwards of 8 to 10 miles a day, could be less than that, but a lot of time walking in the field. And then more so just being mechanically inclined, really, when it comes to, use of hand tools and bolting in those racking systems and the panels. And then last thing I would say, pretty consistent ability to, lift 45 to 50 pounds. Moving into electricians, really day-to-day with that role is terminating and being able to really work in those various inclement weathers, whether rain, mud, snow, a lot of those day-to-day working in trenches, pulling cables, and really installing those electrical components like wiring, fuses, and boxes. As far as equipment operators go, really 3 different levels between light, medium, and heavy. That could really vary anything from operating skid steers, loaders, finished blade operators, mini excavators. Really with the equipment operators, we're looking for folks that do have 1 to 3 years of experience. It all comes down to safety, being responsible, and knowing how to properly operate that equipment. As far as certifications, I would say with the electricians, it does depend on certain states with those licenses. And then same with OSHA 10, and we can also put folks through that training to obtain those certifications as well if needed.
Great. And then if I can ask, well, I feel like you already answered that question about kind of the day in the life, what that looks like. Well, what about potential career paths? So for someone starting in kind of all of those roles, how could you, in each of those roles kinds, if you could speak to that, what would you see as potential advancement opportunities?
Yeah, typically, could go into a foreman, general foreman, superintendent, kind of depending on scope. So for instance, with electrical technicians, could work your way up into a career path of an electrical superintendent where, you're overseeing the foreman and those crews as well. So it's just kind of an upward flow if someone wants to go into, being in the field, project management, and so forth from there.
Great. Okay. Then let's unless did you want to mention anything about maybe if you start on an installation or if you start in a equipment operator route? Are they similar kind of opportunities available there?
It is similar, I'd say, with equipment operators. Someone may start on a lighter piece of equipment, maybe something like a mini excavator or skid steer, move up to an excavator, dozer, and heavy equipment operators, for instance, a PD-10, and that's really a piece of equipment driving those piles to install the modules on. I would say that would be the path for that role in particular.
Great. Thanks for touching on that. Great. So I'm going to move over to Astrid, and moving over to Astrid and then Astrid with Revision Energy, and then Mike with Sunrun. Just a reminder of both of them focus more on the residential kind of rooftop side of the solar industry. So I'll kick it off, kick it over to you, Astrid. If you could talk a little bit about the skill sets that are most important for the several roles you mentioned that you're hiring for, what are must-have, whether it's in terms of skills or certifications for those roles. Let's start with that.
So thank you for that. And I'm going to talk about the skill certifications and such, but I think I'm going to switch my presentation format just a touch. So one of the roles that we are looking to hire most for at Revision Energy is solar installer electrical apprentices. And Revision is a little unique when it comes to being a solar installer and employer, because we have our own in-house apprenticeship program. So we are the first solar company in the United States and the first non-union entity to have an in-house apprenticeship program. So an apprenticeship is two things. You need on-the-job training hours, and you would acquire that by working full-time at Revision Energy. Our crews generally work 4-10s, Monday through Thursday, 7 to 5-ish, and then with Fridays for flex days on those lovely winter weather days that we get in New England. And then leaving that Friday available for overtime throughout the rest of the year. We don't have those same weather impediments. So all of our apprentices are participating in schooling as well, so that way they can learn their craft. And that is done predominantly online. So it's a hybrid program. So it's a self-paced model. You can take classes at your pace, but we do follow a semester type schedule, so September through end of May. And then we combine that with also, pre the COVID times, it would have been hands-on classes and sessions to learn pipe bending and such. We have transferred that to more of a remote model. So every single Friday morning, we've got presentations on different topics for all of our apprentices and just generally throughout the company. So we feel very comfortable with training. We will assist you with getting your OSHA 10. What we really need from anyone who comes into Revision Energy, not just our apprentices, we are here to make a difference in the world. That mission alignment is super important, because it can be a little crummy being outside in the cold under a roof, or working long hours or stressful days. But if you care about what it is that you're doing and why you're here, that makes a whole world of difference. We are an employee-owned company, so we are very much focused on that people aspect of Revision Energy. We want everyone who comes into the company to just recognize that we're here to help each other out. I was super happy to hear Becky talking about diversity within clean energy. It is not the most diverse industry, and I personally would love to see more people that look like me. We within Revision Energy have our own version of the DEI initiative, which is JEDI, which stands for Justice, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion. So lightsabers.
That's amazing.
So I'm just going to let that continue to do its thing. I apologize for the now background noise that I've created. But sorry about that. But we are a full service provider, so we need someone on our safety team. That kind of experience from a veteran is absolutely going to be valuable. Our current safety director is a veteran himself. We need women out in the field, but we also need folks within the office as well. So we do have some inside sales positions. We're looking for administrative assistant, IT, so just kind of a little bit of everything.
Right, thank you. And let's see, could you talk a little bit about what a day in the life of a role is? Let's say for that installer, electrical apprentice, and then also for the sales roles.
So our install crews, as I'd kind of previously mentioned, are usually working 410s Monday through Thursday. We are, of course, in the middle of the pandemic. It will go on for who knows how long. So we are currently asking all of our co-owners to meet at the job site, though normally we would have asked them to come into the shop, help prep what it is they need for the day, load up the truck, and then head out to a job site together. So hopefully we can transition to a little bit more of that inclusive, all hands on deck type of approach. But for now, social distancing it is. So our residential solar installation will take roughly 2 days. We do want to make sure that we are providing our apprentices with enough time to go ahead and complete their work. You know, quality is something that is absolutely important for us at Revision Energy. We would much rather give you the time that you need to get things done right the first time versus having to rush because we have deadlines and want to make money. We also have our office hours, so that's going to be a Monday through Friday, 8 to 4, 9 to 5-ish type hours. So we are currently looking for a solar advisor in our Brentwood, New Hampshire location, and that is an inside sales type of role. So you'd be following more of that Monday through Friday type of scheduling. And, you know, I wouldn't say that there is any one set path at Revision Energy, especially where you're an employee-owned company. We really care about the growth of all of our employee owners. So I've had folks that have started out in the field installing, and now one of them is a sales manager, another one became an engineer, and someone else continued that path. They got their electrical license and now are a company-wide commercial project manager. You know, same thing with someone starting off in the warehouse. They can go in any direction. Sales going in any direction as well.
Great, thanks for that, Astrid. Great, I'm going to turn it over now to Mike with Sunrun. Mike, if you can let us know, just remind us a little bit about those roles you're hiring for and what skill sets you're looking for in those roles, and what, you know, if there's skills or certifications and such that are, you know, let's say absolutely required for that, or, you know, what's the most important thing there, as well as then touching on what a day in the life of those roles would be like.
Sure. Well, again, we're looking for everything from entry-level sales to installers, site survey technicians. Those are the guys who measure roofs using drones, field service techs that are a little more into troubleshooting on the ground and potentially up on the roofs, but a lot of moving around on that role. The skills that we're looking for our sales folks, we're looking for people who can engage and talk to people. You got to be a little bit of an extrovert. That is key to anything we do. As far as installer roles go, it's basically the same as what everyone's been talking about as far as use of hand tools, ability to climb a ladder, you know, safety focused, and day in the life of an installer is pretty much the same as what Ashley was talking about. They're fairly long days. We are in 29 states, so we work 6 days a week with rotating days off. So our employees work 5 days, but our teams work 6. Realistically speaking, you can grow pretty quickly at Sunrun. One of the reasons for all of our military outreach, they brought me on and asked me to build programs for them because we're 9,000 deep employees right now. We're forecasted to double that in the next 18 months. We are in 29 states, so we have a pretty big operational footprint. And the reason they want to target military service members and spouses and veterans is because of the soft skills that they bring. I know it was touched on very, very briefly in the first slide. We're looking for people who are safety conscious, mission driven, and team oriented. You know, we don't have single guys out putting roofs on houses. We have teams that go out, and we want people that can interact well. The reason we're specifically targeting the E4s, E5, E3s, E4s, E5s for our installer program is because as we grow so quickly, we're going to need people who have leadership and management skills that can grow with us. So the career path for an installer at Sunrun is kind of this, instead of a straight line, it's more of a center of a spider web. You can go from being an installer to being a lead installer to being a crew chief. Or you can say, maybe I want to be a site survey technician, or maybe I want to be an electrician apprentice. And if you choose to go that route with electrician apprentice, we provide tuition reimbursement, and all the hours you work for us as an installer count towards your state certifications. So there's a lot of different ways you can go with it. The programs we're initiating, we are recently approved for MSEP, which is the Military Spouse Employment Partnership. We're primarily looking to hire about 1,000 people in the next 18 months from that candidate pool alone for our sales force. SkillBridge is primarily aimed at the installer roles and the entry-level bringing in roles. And then we're also partnering with the Hire Heroes to be a part of the fellowship to handle some of our corporate facing roles. So lots and lots of opportunities. That's why we're part of this team, and that's why we want to be a part of Hire Heroes and Solar Ready Beds. Does that answer your question, Becky?
It does. I think you answered the entire set of questions. So thank you very much, Mike. Appreciate it.
I was listening.
Yes. Well, I mean, I did ask the same questions over and over. So yeah, so I'd like to now at this point really open it up to the audience and questions you have. One thing that I do want to address that I'm seeing a common theme here in the questions already is, asking about positions available in specific areas. And I will say that we have, with those 27 companies that are participating in the career fair, we have pretty strong coverage across the country. And many of those employers work in multiple regions, multiple states, and multiple parts of multiple states. So, there's a good chance that there could be a match there. I would encourage you to go online probably tomorrow. Some companies are still building out their booths, but we've asked the companies to be very specific about making it very clear on their homepage and the page where they can post their jobs in their booth on the career fair about where they're hiring for what positions. And so I'd encourage you to, spend some time kind of looking at that in advance of the career fair, because again, we do have really a pretty good range of companies from across the country. Great. I'm just looking at some of these other questions here. Somebody asked about a copy of the slide deck. Yes, we will be providing that tomorrow to you all. We hope to get a copy of this recording as well. I'm not sure if that will be ready or not at that point. And one thing, a candidate is saying that they're willing to relocate. I would say that I definitely make that prominent as in your discussions with employers at the career fair, because a lot of these employers will be willing to hire folks that are willing to relocate. So let me see here if I've got some questions for our employer partners here. One is asking if there are there quality assurance type of positions available? Are those the types of positions that your companies, does your company hire for those kinds of quality assurance types of roles? I don't know if any of you want to address that while I kind of look through some other questions here.
Sure, I'll take it. As far as quality assurance roles, or any transitioning veteran should understand this. Generally speaking, when you apply for a job on the internet and you go to a company's website, hit apply, yes, you identify yourself as a veteran. If that company has a military recruiting team, you are far, far better served contacting their military service team and telling them that you are interested in that job. The way that works is if you apply for the job, you're going to get looked at the same as everybody else. When you go through a military team, you get fast tracked to the head of the line for that recruiter, what that recruiter has to review. I would absolutely encourage you to work through your military programs with all of these partners that we have here today and any that you might meet tomorrow. Talk to them directly, correspond with them or their military inboxes, because that will get you looked at a lot faster and a lot more carefully with someone on the receiving end explaining to the recruiter what that resume means in civilian speak. So to the person, I believe it was, forgive me while I look this up, I believe it was Yasmin.
Mhm.
Absolutely, 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 it will help you. But you have to make sure they understand what you're saying. So go through the military teams. I hope that answers the question.
Thanks, Mike. I will say that, certainly we have a really wide range of solar employers participating in this career fair too. Some that are on the small side, right? So they won't have, some of them, a dedicated military recruiter, but some of those same employers are, some of the management are veterans themselves. And so I would, the only kind of caution I would say with what Mike said is don't count out companies that maybe don't have a military specific recruiter. For sure, target those individuals in companies that do, and you can often find that information on LinkedIn for those companies. But talk with the companies about what programs or resources they have available. A lot of them will have informal or formal mentoring or resource groups for the military community at the company. They can pair you with someone who has served, that sort of a thing. One question I want to address here is in particular for the sales or customer services types roles for veterans who are disabled. Are there any work from home opportunities, again, specifically focused on kind of customer services or sales? And this is from Beverly. Maybe Astrid, if you wanna, could you touch on that one? Oh, you're on mute, Astrid. Yeah.
Yep. And I'm also just kind of acquainting myself with the question as well. So Revision Energy absolutely supports veterans with disabilities. We actually have a couple of disabled veterans both out in the field as electrical apprentices and as sales reps. With a lot of our sales positions, you can work remotely, but where you're kind of looking to make connections in the community, it can be a little bit trickier to make those connections with homeowners if you're not in the same state, for example. So with the remote part, it's a little bit of a mix, but we are absolutely supportive of veterans and those with disabilities. And not to jump around in too many different things, but there was another question as well about whether someone can still work for a company like Revision or any one of my colleagues here while they are currently serving in the Guard. And we are able to do that and accommodate. Special Revision has got the 410 work week that does allow you Fridays and weekends off for those opportunities. And we also have someone who is currently deployed right now. So we've put his apprenticeship on hold. And then when he comes back, then he'll go ahead and jump right back into the field.
Thanks, Astrid. Would anybody else like to jump in there, or should I jump to another question? Great. Okay, I'll go ahead to another question. And this is for really any of you who would like to answer. So this particular person, Christian, has a medical background and has been in the military for over 21 years. I mean, he's specifically asking about opportunities in El Paso, Texas. But, since, as we said, various companies are offering opportunities in various parts of the country. I wouldn't be surprised if there are opportunities in El Paso, by the way. But can you talk about, if somebody having really not a construction background or not an electrical background, but, being interested in entering the solar industry, where you could see a good fit potentially there?
I've actually seen a lot of questions asking from senior NCOs that are retiring or getting out.
Right.
They don't necessarily have a background that you would think fit neatly into solar energy. But what you have to look at is the skills that you have that are soft skills. Your ability to manage, your ability to budget, the ability to work to build teams from nothing, or build teams from people you don't pick. The opportunities there are to put your management strengths and talk about your contributions, especially resume during the interview. Talk about things that don't necessarily go to, let's say, the medical background side of the house, but talk about the size of the budget that you're responsible for and how many people you oversaw as a team lead or from leadership perspective. As far as those skills go, those are very good fits for project management in the solar industry overall. So it may not be managing people who are working on heart monitors, but you're managing people who are working with solar panels. At the end of the day, you're not working with either one of those products. You're simply overseeing and managing the team that does. So you have a lot of skills there. Play to your strengths. I hope, does that help?
Yeah, thank you. I definitely think that's helpful. Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I would just say broadly, the employers recognize, these employers who are participating in particular in this career fair do recognize those soft skills, those leadership skills that you all bring, that work ethic, the team player mentality, right? The mission-driven mindset, and they really value that. So the more, as Mike said, you think about not only, yes, definitely your transferable skills for sure, but also that unique value that you offer over someone who might have experience in the solar industry, but they don't have experience in the military. So absolutely. Okay, looking over here at all the questions. I think we've answered most of them. I guess the one that you all can tell me if you're comfortable. Folks are asking about, like, if it's an entry-level role, what could be a salary expectation as far as a range goes, let's say for an installer. Would you all be comfortable speaking to that, or would you all prefer to have like individual conversations one-on-one with folks about that?
I feel comfortable kind of sharing what Revision's range is. So with each of our roles, there is a wage band based on experience. So you could end up coming a little higher than that. But generally the apprentice roles at Revision don't start any less than 18 an hour. That's going to be our minimum. And then we do also pay for all of your schooling, anything that you might need for your apprenticeship. And then just general training as well, like leadership, soft skills, all those sorts of things.
Right.
Great. And then how does that compare to what, let's say you go through the apprenticeship program and become an electrician? Like, how does that compare, if you're comfortable sharing that, just to show folks kind of the progression of potential for career growth?
So again, different ranges, and we've got wage bands and such. But our lowest starting wage for a new journeyman electrician is going to be kind of in the mid-20s range. So like maybe 24, 25 at the lowest end of the spectrum, and of course going up from there. And if anyone has gone through our own apprenticeship program and has gotten their electrician's license through Revision Energy, because of the way that our program works, a lot of our licensing is actually acquired through the state of New Hampshire, which allows reciprocity in many other states outside of the ones that we work with individually. So if you continue to like, hey, I've already got my electrician's license in one state, let me just go ahead and reciprocate. Things like that definitely add value and add to that pay scale.
Great. Thanks for your willingness to share that. I will let, we're at time here, but I will let any other employers who want to talk about that speak briefly.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind on the O&M side, Becky. So we start off our kind of entry level solar groundsman in the $22 to $24 per hour And then that goes all the way up to the mid 45s. Again, there's bands just like Astrid was talking, but we can get all the way up in about the mid 40s for that senior level tech, plus overtime and other things, and a bonus. So they can get into six figures easy at our company when you get into senior tech level roles.
Great. Great. All right. Well, thank you again for your willingness to share that information. And again, there are many roles available, different types of roles available. So, those are just a quick snapshot of those specific roles at those specific companies. But I encourage folks to, go ahead and ask employers about that at the career fair, since it will vary for sure. So we're at time here. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this meeting. We will be sending the slides and hopefully the recording tomorrow. We look forward to seeing all of you at the career fair. Really appreciate your time. We would love to have you in the solar industry. We are growing so rapidly. We need all of your skills and your soft skills and your technical skills, and just really look forward to hopefully welcome you into the solar industry.